Good evening. Victoria has experienced its wettest and coldest May day in well over a decade, with many suburbs receiving nearly a month's rainfall in less than 12 hours. Melbourne had 45 millimetres, with wind gusts reaching 96 kilometres per hour, and the temperature staggered to just 11 degrees. Laurel Irving is out in it tonight, and Laurel, those conditions add up to traffic chaos.
They do, Mitch, and we're just hearing now details of a horror crash down at Werribee. We understand that one person has died and another person is injured after a train clipped a car on a level crossing. In many ways, across much of Victoria, it's been a shocking day today. Torrential rain, gale force winds and almost freezing conditions. Even by Melbourne standards, today was tough.
Pretty horrible, actually.
But you expect that in Melbourne, don't you?
The low pressure system moved over the metropolitan area this morning and stayed for most of the day. Geelong was the first to cop it, and in Melbourne, the morning peak was saturated. By late this afternoon, most of the city recorded between 40 and 50 millimetres in the downpour, the highest on the coast at Rosebud.
The average for May is only around 55 millimetres, so we could potentially see a month's worth of rain in a day.
The water threatened holiday cabins and flooded homes, city buildings and roads. The station and train tracks at Oakleigh were flooded, while strong winds brought down trees across the state. And at the rowing championships at Ballarat's Lake Wendouree, one competitor was thrown into the water. The SES has had more than 250 calls for help.
We'll get more calls for assistance probably this evening as a number of people return home.
And we weren't the only ones suffering. Much of Queensland was drenched by the same system. And while the east coast was awash, a high over the west meant Perth had its coldest morning since 1914 at 1.3 degrees. In the Alps, though, it was all good news. A thick blanket of snow 2 weeks before the season begins.
We've got all the chairs ready to go, everything's ready to spin, so looking forward to a good cover and a great season.
But don't be fooled by today's miserable conditions. Once this system passes, the Bureau's actually predicting this winter will be warmer and drier than average. David Brown has more later in the bulletin. Laurel Irving, 7 News.
Good evening. Wet and windy today. Winter is here. In fact, it's been raining since 3 o'clock this morning. Most of the metro area copped 40 to 50 millimetres. That's almost a month's worth in a day. In fact, the city recorded its wettest May day in 17 years. And it was cold too. The coldest for May since 2000, 11 degrees. That was it. The overnight low, 8.5. Currently in town, let's have a look. It's only 10 degrees. And from the radar, some good news. We can see the bulk of the rain is now clearing across the eastern suburbs. It's heading towards Gippsland. We'll just see a few showers sweeping in from the southwest tonight and tomorrow. From the satellite, have a look at the size of this system. It extends all the way from Queensland down through New South Wales, wrapping around the eye of the storm, which is now sitting out over Bass Strait. It's been delivering heavy rain to central parts of Victoria and Gippsland. The bulk of it will start to move away overnight. But a weak cold front moving up is expected to bring scattered showers to most of the state tomorrow. Air mass very, very cold indeed, so we'll see more snow falling across the Alps.